Well, I'm sure each one of us has a time we remember when we finally made it to the grown-up part of life. Mine happened to be in our church, we have an organization called Relief Society. It's an organization for women, and just like the name, it's to bring relief, to help our sisters, to help our neighbors. And it's at that time, they would have a meeting on Sunday, Relief Society, where you'd have a lesson, and then there would be an activity during the week. And during the week, you would have a small helpful lesson, on learning something, a skill, could be anything, first aid, anything, and then you'd have an activity. This was my first night at Relief Society. I was very excited because, wow, I'm a grown-up now. I had just graduated, and so this would be my very first night at Relief Society. Well, I went there, and of course, I went all by myself. No one else went with me that night. So I was there as a 17-year-old young woman with the adult women of my church group. Well, it started out and they had their opening exercises and welcomed everyone, an opening prayer. And then there was a lesson that was going to be given. And this lesson was given by a sister, and the sister was going to teach us about the Heimlich Maneuver. I was sitting there thinking, wow, this is exciting. I wasn't really paying attention to what this sister in our ward was saying. And then all of a sudden I sort of got this little, Gayle, you need to pay attention. So I sat there and I listened a little bit longer, and I thought, I've already gone over this. We've started these things. I've heard it before. Don't know all the details, but how much is there to it? I got off on a side trip again. Was thinking, well, there could be some fun things for me to do other than sitting in here listening to the Heimlich Maneuver. Well, so I started on that side path again. Another little, Gayle, you need to pay attention, came into my thoughts. So I sat there and I watched her, and I nodded my head, and I listened, and I watched my watch, and I listened. And finally, the Heimlich Maneuver lesson was over. Hallelujah. Now it was time for the activity. This is where all the ladies moved into the cultural hall, which is really just a big gym. Now, the person in charge tonight was a good friend of mine, and her name is Gayle. She was in charge of the activity, and she had planned a relay race. So she divided the group of women into two groups, and I'm thinking there was probably about maybe 40 women there. So there was 20 women on one team and 20 women on another team. And what this entailed is different things that you would do. Each team would have a sack on a table marked 1 through 20. If you were person number 1, you picked up sack number 1. So when the whistle blew, you ran to the table and got it. As soon as the person next to you finished their sack, then you could run, pick up your sack, and find out what it was you had to do. Well, I'm sort of scanning the competition, and I'm looking, and I'm the youngest one there. In my favor, I'm going to be fast. But I look at the sweet little lady across from me. That was Dora Ford, the sweetest, most gentle little creature you've ever seen. Now, at this time, I was in biomedical corps up at Weber State, which is just learning different things in the medical field. And one of the very first films we had to sit and watch was open heart surgery. So you can imagine that was a big impression on me, watching them crack open the sternum and pull the ribs apart, and it was pretty intense. So when I looked over and saw this delicate little sweet Sister Ford standing across from me, she just had open heart surgery. I mean, this must have been the very first event she'd been to since she'd had her surgery. The perfect little petite, beautiful woman. And I thought to myself, no matter what's in that sack, I'm going to beat her because she's a lady and I'm not. Well, I'm sitting there sort of thinking as soon as it gets to me, we're making up time, our team's going to win. It was going, it came to us. Believe it or not, we both got our sacks at the same time. When we opened it up, it was who could eat a Twinkie. Well, dear sweet Dora opened up her Twinkie and she started to eat. Well, I think I'd already swallowed mine when it happened. All of a sudden, she starts going, there's no sound. There's nothing. There's no sound. All of a sudden, everyone at the same time realizes she's choking. Well, here we are, 40 women standing around. I am the only 17-year-old there, and they all turn and look at me. I'm like, what? I'm looking at the lady that just gave the directions on the Heimlich Maneuver. Why isn't everyone looking at her? They're looking at me. And I'm thinking, they want me to do it? I saw what open heart surgery does, and the Heimlich and open heart surgery, no way. So nobody moves a finger. Sweet little Sister Dora Ford is there choking. No sound coming. I run over to her. I outweigh her by 100 pounds easily. I reach around her. I very gently put my hands together, place them under the sternum, and ever so gently squeeze. Nothing happens. She's still. Now, she's changing colors. I think I gotta do it. I've started. There's no going back. I give it a second, little bit harder, but don't come near that wired shut sternum. Nothing happens. I'm now scared to death, and so is everyone else. So with Hercules' power, I grab my hands and I shove them under the sternum, and I lift her straight up off the ground, and a Twinkie comes shooting out of her mouth. And we hear as the air rushes in. I gently set her down, and I'm looking for any signs of trauma, any bleeding. She's just ever so delicately standing there. She smiles and she goes, I don't know what everybody's so worried about. I'm fine. My lesson? Pay attention the first time.